What's up, buddy? Glad you're here. Second installment of the Hungry for Wisdom preseason wisdom warm-up. Not into season 3 yet. Instead, I'm giving you little snippets daily on how to learn. Right now, I'm planning for 10 of these things. We will see where it goes. The second installment here is dedicated again to my man Paul over at Three Nails Bibles. You need a Bible rebind. You need some beautiful leather on there with your name or a favorite scripture stamped in the front. You need some bookmarks. You need some binding action on it. You need those little rib things that are kind of like fancy and make it look 200 years old or something like that. You need any of that? Call Paul, Three Nails Bibles. Shout out. All right, second installment here. Go-to sources for learning. So how do you learn? How do you do this thing, man? How do you put information in the old noggin? It's an important thing, right? Because how are you going to have wisdom if you don't have any knowledge? How do you get knowledge? Well, you'll learn it. So learning, as we said in the first installment, is not the be-all, end-all of everything. But if you're going to go about it, how do you go about it? Well, one thing that I do is I pick my sources very carefully. And the sources that I pick, and listen to this, this is key. The sources I pick for learning are all of them. All right. You take it wherever you can find it. If you're listening to somebody talk, if you're eavesdropping in on a conversation, you're going to learn about somebody else's worldview. If somebody that you don't respect gives you advice, you're at least going to learn why you're going to be able to articulate in your head why you disagree with that advice. And that will help shape you, inform you. Boom. You're wiser than you were 5 minutes before you got bad advice. So I'm just talking about having your eyes open. The most learned people that I know were, They are as educated as they are because they're just aware. They're just awake, man. They're ready for information to come, even from surprising places. They're the people that'll walk by and stop and say, I wonder why that thing is, why it is the way it is. So the question, why? Ooh, I think I just learned something. Maybe that's the reason that kids get so smart so fast, and it surprises us. Like, man, how did that kid get so smart? Because they're always asking why, right? Oh, I think we just cracked the code here, people. But if you just, hey, why is it like that? Why isn't it like that? Why would you say this? Why wouldn't he say that? Why did he do the thing that he did? So just look for information in places where it might sneak up on you and expect the unexpected when it comes to learning. Another place that I go intentionally for learning is I will find, I'm going to talk about this one first, not because it's the most important, but because it's probably the most common, and I don't want you to avoid it. I want you to do it skillfully. One of the most common ways to learn is the YouTube sinkhole. Now, you know about the YouTube sinkhole. I know about it. You love it. I love it. Who doesn't get caught up from time to time in the YouTube sinkhole, right? You click on one video, the algorithm hits you with another one. You go and watch that, and then you watch that. And before you know it, you started watching an instructional video on how to throw a curveball so that you can teach your son and pretend like you know. This might be autobiographical. And then, you wind up talking about, watching a video talking about how they're storing alien spaceships and corpses in the tunnels underneath the Denver airport or something. Because it's true, man. We got videos. Anyway, the sinkhole is something that's dangerous because it'll waste a bunch of your time. But it's redeemable because what you want to do is don't get carried away with it, right? You got to stay in control of the algorithm. Don't let the suggestions decide how you're going to spend your time. You got to be intentional with it. And what you want to do is you want to find those guys that can summarize something really well. A guideline I try to go by is I keep videos under 12 minutes. I say under 12 because I want to allow more than 10-minute explanations and summaries for things, but if I hit 12, I'll cheat and go to 15 sometimes. But if I say 15, then I'll cheat and go to 20, and I don't want to do that. So I shoot for videos that are 12 minutes or under, and they have to be a good summary or exposure, or I have to think that it's going to be a good summary of a subject or exposure to a subject that I otherwise would not have known. One thing that's really helpful with podcasts these days is that they're taking snippets of them and putting them on YouTube. So you can watch a 10-minute snippet of a 3-hour-long podcast episode, and you'll get exposed to some ideas, and you'll be able to evaluate them. There'll be a link underneath if you want to go get more information about this guy or what that gal was saying, or maybe you just want to go listen to the whole podcast episode. So it's those brief little exposures. You can window shop sources for learning these days if you navigate the YouTube sinkhole properly. So that's one thing to do. Another thing to do is to listen to like 3 full episodes of new podcasts regularly. I say 3 because 1 is not a good sample size, and you don't really know what that podcast is fully offering to you until you get a few episodes in. You can see how they're approaching, how they're approaching their subject. What is the point? What's the driving force behind these guys putting in all the work that it takes to start up a podcast? Side note, it's not much, it turns out. I learned that one the fun way. But you want to know why they get out of bed every morning and record these podcasts. So give them 3 episodes, and then if you like them, do more. And if not, hey, no harm, no foul. Move on to the next one. So you got the YouTube sinkhole, you got podcasts, you've got just being generally aware and then information coming from surprising places. Now, here's one that I do not want you to forget, because this is the timeless way of gaining wisdom, okay? Conversations with wise people. Just find wise people and spend your time around them. What I do is whenever I can, I make my mentors work for it. So I look for opportunities to get in the car with them where there's no escape, and I ask them to drive, and then I get a notepad and a pen, and I just come prepared with questions, and I pepper them. That's what I do, Sometimes it's like notepad optional. Sometimes I just want to have a conversation with them. But I'm making sure that I'm drawing out of their head what's in there. Sometimes I'll also buy them a burger, but I'll eat before I get there, and then I'll buy them food and just get them talking. Now, they're eating, I'm scribbling, right? I'm not eating. Sometimes I'll pull that move with people. So one time I was taking some of you guys were, a couple of you guys that are probably listening were on this trip. I was taking a team to Africa, and we had to drive 3 hours to a certain airport because that's where our tickets were flying out of. So, I called up my buddy who is a pastor. He was my pastor for a while. And I said, hey, your church has a big van. Can we use the van to go to the airport? And he said, sure. It's just got to be one of our church members that drives it for insurance reasons and blah, blah, blah. I said, cool. Can it be you? And he said, all right. So I told the whole mission team, I was like, guys, I'm sorry to be a jerk, but I'm calling shotgun. I'm pulling rank on this one, and I'm calling shotgun. So I had a 3-hour ride to the airport with one of my mentors, and I pulled out a notepad and a pen, and I just peppered him, right? And he's a pastor. He's been in it longer than me. So I'm like, hey, what do you do about this problem? How do you solve that issue? How do you engage this? How do you preach a text like this? And it was just off the top of his head, and the stuff was solid gold, man. Another time, I take out a guy who had been a pastor for 25 years at that point, I think. He's since retired, but just a wealth of wisdom. And he was so humble about it, too, that, he wouldn't talk unless you asked him to talk. It was hard to draw this guy out because he was so mild and humble. So I pulled my move. I ate before we got there, and then I bought him a burger, and I sat there with a notepad, and I just asked him questions about stuff. And here's, 25 years of pastoral ministry in one single church, and probably 35 or 40 years of total ministry experience all together, pastoral and otherwise. And he's just saying it with a mouthful of cheeseburger, and I can't even write fast enough. And to him, it was nothing. He was dropping wisdom like candy wrappers, but to me, it was absolute life, right? So have conversations with wise people, intentional conversations with the right wise people that you pick, and plan the conversations out before you get there, at least in a skeleton, format, just so you're not wasting time. And then you can depart from that plan however you want to, but show up with a plan to maximize the time. All right. So, something else you can do. So we got the YouTube sinkhole. We've got being aware of where information may be coming from and expecting the unexpected. We got podcasts. We've got conversations with wise people. Let me talk for a minute about books. Now, we're going to do a couple of episodes on books, but just a couple of preliminary issues about books. First of all, if you read one book on a subject, you do not understand the subject. You got to read at least 2, and it's best if they come from different perspectives, okay? Now, what I prefer to do is to get a book over here on the left hand and a book on the right hand, you guys that disagree with each other, and see, and then just basically let them square off, right? I want to read John Locke and Jean-Jacques Rousseau at the same time as regards education. Rita Kozigan wrote that book on, these two guys' position on education. And so I want to read both of those guys. Great book, by the way, even though I mispronounced her last name. And I want to let the smartest people that have ever lived duke it out right on my desk, right? And just see who wins the fight. And while I'm doing that, I'm trying to reserve judgment, reserve conclusions, because I want to wait until their arguments finish themselves. And it's just like, okay, hey, nice point. There you go. Oh, hey, cool. Here you go. Nice point over here. That was a good counter. No, your point doesn't really hold water here because he just eviscerated your case when he said that. And just let them debate, man. Guys that have been dead 300-400 years, guys that have been dead 2,000 years. Let them debate. So read broadly. You can read little snippets, but on opposite ends of the spectrum. And then what'll happen is you'll have enough information in your head to either know, okay, I fall more on this side of the argument, or I don't even have enough understanding to participate in this argument. And guys, that right there is wisdom, right? When you get to say, I don't think I need to have an opinion about this. The person in the room that says that is the wisest person in the room, okay? Listen to them. And that can be you if you've got a well-rounded perspective on something. So that's the thing with books, right? A lot of times we'll read one book, we think we understand something. I'm just telling you, books were written by people, and people occupy a part of a conversation. Whatever they say, there's going to be pushback against to see if you can find that. Which leads me to my next point and final point for this mini episode. Where do you find the books? You ever wonder that? These guys read all of these books. Like, how do you even find this stuff? Now, you can go pursue a research PhD program or something and learn all the ways to find all the information that exists. Look, I ain't spending time doing that. That's not my calling. So how do you find good, helpful books to read? All right, here's the key. You find one, and then you go and check the bibliography. All right. Now, the bibliography of a book just shows you all the books that the authors read to, gather the information to write their book. So you can go back and see who they were reading, and you can say, oh, wow, I'm really curious about more on this particular subject or that, or maybe the title just looks interesting to you, or maybe you realize this author was quoting this one other guy a whole lot, and you want to go and read more from that guy. So you get one book that you like on a certain subject, even if it's fiction. These days with the internet, you can just look up, hey, who was this author's biggest influence? And he'll say, oh, it was G.K. Chesterton, or it was J.R.R. Tolkien, or it was Edgar Allan Poe, for crying out loud. I mean, whatever, right? And you can just go and read, it was Kurt Vonnegut. You can go and read more from that guy. So check the bibliographies, or, find out somehow who influenced the author, and those will send you down all the right rabbit holes for whatever you were reading that interested you in the first place. All right. Stay aware. Information is going to come from all over the place. Navigate the YouTube sinkhole skillfully. Stay in control of yourself and your time. Okay, 3 episodes of a podcast minimum, and then move off of it if you want to. Go find another one. And spend time with wise people, okay, and plan for it. And then ask them questions, get them talking, make them work for their time with you, all right? You want to make your mentors burn some calories when you're around. You want to exhaust your mentors in each conversation. Don't wear out your welcome. Don't call them too often, make them hate you. But you want to make them work while you got them, all right? Squeeze out the juice that's in that head. And then, that was gross, sorry. And then read books from multiple ends of a spectrum on a situation. And to find those books, you check the bibliographies of the ones you are reading. Most importantly, call Paul at 3 Nails Bibles. We'll see you on the next one.
Hungry for Wisdom is a ministry of Grace and Truth Community in West Richland, Washington. You can find out more about us on our app, social media, or at graceandtruthcommunity.com. We love Him because He first loved us.